We are going to a brief video here as we get started. Actually, first, we'd love to hear from you and tell us in the chat box, if you would, when and where did you first hear about the English Language Fellow Program? Colleague who is an alum, terrific. Previous conference, good to hear. A lot of colleagues, excellent. Hopefully they were fellows themselves. The internet, Emmanuel, that's where I found out myself as well before I became a fellow. And lastly, before we move on, as Jenny's asking here, any fellow alum with us today? All right, excellent. Maybe we have some future fellows and specialists to be. Let's move along. We're going to watch a very brief video now, a day in the life of a fellow, and this one takes place in Jordan. Please sit back and enjoy.
Nick, I don't have sound, do you?
I don't have sound either.
I don't have sound too.
It was not on. Okay, excuse me one moment.
I think in
Yeah.
the share screen.
Right, we're going to come back on. Sorry about that. Okay, let's bring it back in. Okay, here we go.
I'm Jamila Barton, and I'm an English Language Fellow in Amman, Jordan.
My name is Virginia Easley, and I'm an English Language Fellow in Amman, Jordan.
So I didn't know anything about Jordan when I came here. And it's been really exciting to get to know this part of the world because there's a lot of history I didn't have any idea about. And one of the things to me that's so interesting about Jordan is that there's 7 different empires that have walked through here. The Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire. There's a really deep diversity that's just inherent in the culture here. And this place, this region is so important to so many different people. I'm at 2 locations this year. I'm at University of Jordan and Queen Rania Teachers Academy. I teach in the Applied English program at the University of Jordan 2 days a week, and I teach teachers at Queen Rania Teachers Academy. I'm managing 2 projects there, so I'm there 3 days a week. One of the projects I manage is the Phonics for Early Reading Success program. I created it last year because I was doing reading with the grades 4 through 10 teachers, and I noticed that a lot of the students didn't have basic reading skills that you would get if you were learning phonics. So I wanted to focus this year on grades 1, 2, and 3, and the teachers teaching English at those levels. They have all expressed how wonderful it is to learn this. Most of them said they never got this skills in university, that they never even knew that it was important to teach phonics skills as a part of early reading. In fact, Queen Rania Teachers Academy has been so excited about this that they're actually going to continue the program as I've done it this year. So that's been a really big success.
On this fellowship, I've had a lot of opportunities that I would not have had as a teacher in the US. I use my program activities allowance to do a side project, working with the UN refugee school, where I worked with fourth graders and their teacher to develop a literacy program. I really enjoyed that experience because that actually showed me my creative side. It showed me that I love developing curriculum. It showed me that I could do it. It showed me that I love research. And I was actually able to implement 3 of those workshops. I got positive feedback from the 3 of them. So it's pretty easy getting around Jordan. Things are within hours, 1 hour, 2 hours, you can get to Wadi Rum, Petra, Irbid, Jaresh. One of my favorite getaways is the Dead Sea. It's amazing. It is the lowest point on earth. You come here and you float and you relax. You get away from the major city. So this is definitely one of my favorite getaways. I'm finishing my 2nd year as a fellow, and after being here for 2 years, I've decided to actually continue living in the Middle East. So being here has broadened my horizons. It has made me a more confident teacher. It has expanded me in areas that I could have never imagined.
Okay, bit of an abrupt ending there, maybe a tech glitch, but lovely video nonetheless. I think we got a good taste, and as Jenny mentioned in the chat, wish we could all be fellows in Jordan, floating that Dead Sea. I'd like to briefly introduce ourselves before we get started here. Jenny?
I'm on the edge of my seat for the end of that video, but thanks for sharing it. I think those videos are a great way to see what our programs are really like in the field, so feel free to check out the rest of those. My name's Jenny Hodgson, and I work at the Department of State as the English Language Fellow Program Officer. And prior to that, my best job ever was being an English Language Fellow in Togo in 2009 to 2010.
Thank you, Jenny. Eva?
Hi, I'm Eva Sullivan. I was a fellow in Laos from 2017 to 2018. I am a teacher with Montgomery County Public Schools, teaching English and English as a second language.
Thanks, Eva. And I'm Nick Gordon. I was very recently a fellow myself in Kyiv, Ukraine for 2 years. And I had such a wonderful experience that I'm happy to continue on as an outreach coordinator now with English language programs. A word from Jenny about the current status of our program.
Sure. So, as you might imagine, the program is currently on hold right now. We did have to pause the program in March of 2020 to bring everybody home. So even though we are paused right now, we are recruiting for the 21-22 academic year in hopes that things will resume. So we don't have any definitive answers as of yet, but we are planning to move ahead when things are safe. All right, so you can see that we do have program alum from all over the country. And if you look at the Washington, D.C. area as a region, so Maryland, Virginia, and D.C., we actually have one of the largest alumni cohorts. I think 104 alumni from this region, which is just second to California. So WATESOL is an important partner for the English language programs, and we know that we have a lot of alumni in the region. So if you did want to think about the program, there'd be plenty of people to talk to about it. Today, we're going to go over the program. We'll hear from Eva, our alum today. She'll share her experience, and then we'll give you some more information about the program benefits and eligibility. please feel free to ask questions throughout in the chat, and we will definitely have time for questions at the end. The English Language Fellow Program started in 1969, so just last year we celebrated our 50th anniversary with nearly 1,500 alumni. And we know you all are celebrating your 50th anniversary this year, so congratulations. The program is a 10-month paid teaching fellowship, and we send US TESOL professionals overseas. These projects are designed by embassies around the world, and each project varies from country to country based on the needs. Almost all projects do involve some degree of teacher training. All projects involve developing English language teaching capacity and increasing mutual understanding through cultural exchange. Projects are challenging, but it's a very unique opportunity to develop skills and enhance your TESOL career. Since this program is funded by the U.S. Department of State within the Office of English Language Programs, public diplomacy is also one of the main goals of the program. Fellows support public diplomacy abroad along with 50,000 other State Department exchange participants abroad each year. So even though the fellow program has about 200 every year, you're among a much larger community that's supporting the same mission of public diplomacy. And we do go pretty much all over the world. These projects are developed by the embassies and submitted to our office in Washington. So it's very needs-based, based on what that country and that embassy is looking to achieve. Fellows are assigned to a primary host institution. So this is usually a university or teacher training college or some other academic institution that's part of the local community. Fellows may live in the capital city, other cities, or even sometimes rural areas. You can indicate where you which region of the world you would prefer or be interested in, but applicants who are willing to go anywhere in the world are much more likely to be matched to a project.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Now we're going to take a closer look at the 6 main components that make up an English language fellowship experience. While each fellowship project is unique based on location and host institution, they all do share an overlap with these 6 components. For starters, all fellowships are full-time jobs with 20 contract hours and 10 hours of prep and grading, and usually 10 hours devoted to secondary duties. Successful fellows are flexible, resourceful, and responsive to the needs of the community in meeting the 6 components to various degrees throughout their fellowship experience. Let's take a closer look at each component, and we'll hear a bit from Eva on her experiences. First one, the primary duties. Most fellowship projects are designed around the needs of an academic host institution and involve teaching undergraduate, graduate courses, participating in curriculum and textbook revision, and facilitating professional development opportunities for host faculty. You can see here in Kazakhstan, a fellow taught English language and linguistics courses and hosted teacher training workshops. From these pictures, she clearly had some remarkable cultural experiences as well. It should be noted as well that fellows never teach K through 12 students as their primary duty. However, they do work with K through 12 classes and teacher trainees. Now a word from Eva, your primary duties.
Hi, good morning. So I was in Laos in Southeast Asia, and I was working with the Ministry of Education and Sports, and my job was to help train English language teachers in the Ministry of Education and to help develop English language K through 12 curriculum. I worked with the ministry, but also because I was the first one in Laos to do this job, it involved a lot of public diplomacy as well. Should I go into more detail? No, we'll go to the next one.
You can add some more to the next one if you'd like on that one too, Eva. Let's move along to our secondary duties here. And we can see, as we've talked about, the majority of a fellow's time is spent on their primary duties, the host institution. However, every fellowship also includes secondary duties that address the unique needs and opportunities of the community. Secondary duties offer fellows a great chance to kind of tap into their own interests and passions and desires as they work with the community. You can see this fellow in Togo, Jenny's former project location as well, developed a teacher training program that revised English department's curriculum for primary duties, and his secondary duties shown here focus on the health and wellness. The top photo shows the community exercise group he started for women. Now we'd love to hear from you. With that in mind, if you were to become a fellow, what interest, skill would you be interested in sharing with students and colleagues? Love to hear from you in the chat. Excellent. Drama and theater, Daniel. Had a lot of improv was popular in my fellowship. A lot of fellows brought that into the classroom and community as well. Excellent. Of course, teaching with tech is crucial nowadays. Drama and speech. Oh, great, Christian. Maybe you could team up with Daniel on that one. Bring some drama together. Yes, Jenny, and climate change was a big topic during my fellowship as well. Excellent. Some good ideas there. We'll hear some more as we move along. Thank you. Eva?
Okay, so my secondary duties were working with the university, the National University of Laos, with the English language department out there. I organized regular teacher training workshops on topics that were interesting to those teachers that they needed help with. I did a series of like phonics workshops, making your own materials, all different kinds of workshops that they expressed interest in, how to use the textbooks that they already had. And I also organized professional development workshops at teacher training colleges throughout the country. So I would travel up to different places and do workshops there with the different teacher training institutions. And my secondary duties were actually they kept me busier than my work with the ministry, since my position was unique, as I was the first one. And a lot of it was just trying to get my foot in the door so that future fellows could carry on the work that I initiated.
Well done, Eva. Many unique opportunities for each fellow, for a lot of firsts when you arrive in your project.
One of my other secondary duties was helping organize the Lao TESOL conference. There's a series of, as you know, TESOL conferences around the world, and Laos had not developed theirs as much as, for example, Viet TESOL in Vietnam, or Cambodia TESOL, or some of the other TESOL programs that were very, very well attended and well advanced. So I work with the local university, the National University of Laos, to have it more presenters from Laos. And it was a fabulous opportunity, just working with them, getting the very first poster sessions set up, getting the very first plenary panel set up with local people instead of Americans. It was a really fun and exciting thing to do.
Excellent. Thank you, Eva. We'll look forward to your 50th reunion on that one as well. It's great. You got the ball rolling. Now, a word about public diplomacy. As Jenny mentioned at the top, it is one of the primary goals of fellowship experience. For example, in Morocco, a strategic public diplomacy goal was youth participation in civic life through social entrepreneurship, volunteerism, and community engagement. So we can see here for secondary duties, this fellow worked with a local girls empowerment organization. They created a running group, met with USA track and field athletes to hear stories and inspiration and perseverance. The culmination of the project, so the girls ran their first 5K in the local community to raise self-awareness for the organization.
So, as I said, since I was working with the Ministry of Education, public diplomacy was definitely one of my areas of responsibility. I worked with the Ministry of Education on a series of curriculum development workshops where we invited K through 12 teachers from around the country to come into the capital city. And we also worked with an outside consultant who helped walk us through the process of developing an English language curriculum. So we started with elementary school teachers and teacher trainers, and then we moved up to secondary. So this was a multi-year project that was initiated when I was there.
Excellent.
So as I mentioned, Laos is one of the 10 ASEAN nations, Association of Southeast Nation. I think I have that acronym right. And English is the language of the ASEAN. And one of the goals of the program that I was working on was to get the language level high enough so that the people could participate actively and in the ASEAN community, but also to help develop rigorous K through 12 education in English.
Thank you, Eva. A word about the community-based projects. As we've discussed, all fellowships are unique and shaped to a large degree by the geography, culture, and people of their host countries. Fellows are often able to develop projects to support community needs and interests, as Eva was describing beforehand. This fellow in Indonesia supported the growing tourism industry with an ESP project, providing English language courses to local scuba guides, empowering them to attract the attention of more English-speaking tourists.
Okay, so one of my community-based projects was working with a rural elementary school. I coordinated with a Fulbright fellow, and we traveled out to the countryside with a tuk-tuk, which is like a taxi, and we got donations and bought materials to bring out to this elementary school, and helped work with the students and to get some of the teachers to learn how to use locally sourced materials. For example, we collected, just cardboard boxes and bottle caps and showed them how to use those as materials for their classrooms. And it was powerful to work with those teachers who thought they had to have, materials and books from the outside, but they had all they needed right there.
Very resourceful. Excellent. Well, on the professional development side, fellows not only build the English language teaching capacity in their host communities, they also experience many professional firsts. Fellows often do activities they may not have had the opportunity to do before, such as being a plenary speaker at a conference, designing teacher training programs, serving on convention committees, and taking a leadership role. As we can see here, this fellow in Izmir, Turkey, worked closely with the U.S. Embassy on teacher training projects with a nationwide reach and focus on underserved communities.
So a lot of my work was related to professional development, working with English language teachers. So I would go out to there were 8 teacher training colleges when I was there. And I would go out to the different regional teacher training colleges and do workshops on the site with different topics each time. And yeah.
Eva?
You can see in the next slide that one of the actually 2 of the teacher training colleges in Laos are exclusively for monks. So we did work with the monks, and one of the things that was kind of awesome is that I sometimes worked at the American Center in Vientiane, which is the capital, and the price is right. Monks take a vow of poverty, and these classes were free at the American Center. So this was another way that we offered professional development for English language teachers. Very unique.
Great. Terrific photos you have too, documenting
Thank you.
variety of your fellowship experience. A word about cultural exchange component, and then we'd love to hear from our participants here today. As we mentioned, this component, in addition to a fellow's primary and secondary duties, there are often infinite opportunities for cultural exchange throughout a fellowship. Fellows serve as cultural ambassadors, learning about the rich culture of their host country and sharing information about American culture. This fellow in Mexico had the opportunities to experience diverse cultural and linguistic groups in her region and to enjoy traditional celebrations. We'd love to hear from you. If you were to go on a fellowship, which aspects of your life, local community, national identity would you like to share with someone from a different background?
What aspect of your life, local community, and national identity would you like to share with someone from different background?
You have bagels and crub. Maybe Christian, another word on crub, if I'm pronouncing that correctly? Or Eva, do you know what this is from your regional?
I'm guessing that it was the New Year festival where everyone throws water.
Absolutely, Daniel. Holidays are a big thing to share with the community. Great. Some good ideas there. Thanks for sharing. We can get that. The bagels might pair well with the crub. Something to keep in mind. Moving on here.
Oh, I get to talk about my favorite part. The cultural exchange was by far the best part of my program. I'm a big rower. I am in the Washington, D.C. region, and I'm a rower and a rowing coach. So I was desperate to get out on the Mekong River when I arrived in Laos. And I was hoping to get into the boat festival, which is, as you can see here, a big thing that happens in October or at the end of the rainy season in Laos. So I was not able to get into the international team boat because I arrived late in the year, but I was able to go out with the coach and, get the experience of going out on the river with them and just experiencing that from a different perspective than most people get. So that was awesome. Also, just, the temples and, the beauty of the local culture with the temples. And I just learned so much about Lao Hinduism. Yeah, it was really fabulous.
Beautiful.
Buddhism, excuse me. What am I saying? I haven't had enough coffee yet.
Great photos and great story. Thank you, Eva.
And then this was also on the left was what I was referring to. I think in Thailand, they might call this krub. In Lao, it's the Lao New Year, and everyone takes 2 weeks off of work. And it's amazing celebration where people throw water on each other. And it's just before the rains come back in April usually, or when it's very, very hot. And the thing on the left is students will wish their teachers happiness for the new year by pouring water into their outstretched hands. The other cultural thing about Laos is it's called the land of a million elephants. And I was lucky that I got to go out and visit elephants in a sanctuary and walk with them and feed them and, just see what they're doing with elephants out in the parts of the country that I didn't get to visit as often. So it was the best part of my program, was the cultural exchange.
Excellent. It's like you had quite a bond with that hospitable elephant as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I have lots of cultural exchange photos because it was so much fun. After every workshop that we did, English language workshop, we got to eat together. And Laos is a country of food appreciation. and we would bond over food. Like I would bring American things to share, and they would share with me their delicious local fresh food after every workshop. So the one on the left is actually on a boat. So after a workshop, we went on a boat and just celebrated together. And then the one on the right was at the university after one of the workshops. You can see how fresh and healthy the food was.
Indeed. Thank you, Eva. It's wonderful to hear about such rich diversity of your fellowship experience. Now, a word from Jenny on her fellowship.
Great, thanks. Yeah, it's hard to think of just one thing to share. I mean, as Eva said, the cultural exchange is amazing. Just living in a different country and really experiencing the day-to-day life, being able to bring things you're passionate about. But one thing that was especially cool for me was we organized a citywide spelling bee with all of the city of Lomé. So we first held a training with any teacher that wanted their school to participate. And basically we taught them how to run a spelling bee in their school. And then they all went back to their schools and held the spelling bee. And then they brought the top 3 spellers from each school throughout the city to the U.S. Embassy. And we were able to hold the semifinals and the finals. And even the U.S. ambassador opened both ceremonies and gave remarks. So that was really special. You can see even the panel of judges is me, one other American, and then 3 Togolese teachers. Lots of Americans from the embassy attended, and then all these amazing Togolese students were able to come to the embassy and just feel really special. And the really cool thing though is that that was a little over about 12 years ago, and they're still doing it today. So that's really fun.
Legacy continues. Terrific. Just a brief word from my primary duties in Ukraine. As Jenny mentioned, it's hard to choose one thing, but the fellowship program does a great job of matching fellows with their particular interests and experiences. And this was kind of a dream for me, my posting, to serve as the director of the English Writing Center at the National University. And we get to have a lot of creative programming with that. Here we did a session on Anti-Slavery Day. And we had, of course, several different writing workshops. We had an American author visit and read. We had a literature club and a variety of programming. So that was a great experience to have the kind of the freedom that we talked about earlier to try different things with the posting. A word now about the program benefits.
Yeah, so in addition to just being an awesome opportunity, there are some great other tangible benefits to participating. For your 10-month fellowship, the stipend is $35,000. And this is in addition to your living allowance. So your housing is covered, your utilities, you get a separate food and transportation allowance. So you get all of that, and then on top of that, you get the $35,000 stipend. Your international travel is paid for, you get a supplemental health benefits plan, you get an activities allowance. So this is money you can spend directly on your project. And then if you have dependents, there's an additional allowance for that. And to apply, you need a graduate degree in TESOL or a related field. You can really have any master's degree as well if you have a K-12 endorsement or like a TEFL or CELTA certificate. You also need experience in the field of English language teaching, and you have to be a US citizen.
The application is currently open on September 1st for the 2021-2022 fellowship cycle. It's a long application, so you want to give yourself plenty of time to complete it. The good news is you can save your sections and return to them at any time. You'll need a minimum of 2 professional references. As you can see here, the priority deadline is in December. Matching begins January through June, and in July, the application closes. For more information and to start your application today, you can visit elprograms.org. we'd love to hear from you now. If there's any other thoughts, questions, the chat box, or you can speak up.
That's a good question, Daniel. Sometimes it can. I think, as Nick mentioned earlier, the biggest thing about how fellows are placed is more about the skills for that project. So you heard Eva say that she's a K through 12 teacher in the US, and her project was focused on training K through 12 teachers. Nick has a writing background, and his project was at a writing center. My background was in teacher training, so I was placed at a secondary an institution that trains secondary teachers. So I think that's the biggest thing, but there are also some benefits to specific regions if you have experience there. And of course, in the application, you can indicate regions that you're interested in. There's some people that also want to go back to somewhere that they've been, and then there's other people who want to experience a new place. So both of those are taken into account as well.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to jump in with something that I didn't even realize was something they were looking for. When I interviewed, I mean, you go through a series of interviews when you are, I guess, when you're matched at the beginning. So during one of my interviews, they were asking me about, I didn't realize they were asking me about entrepreneurial skills. Like, I didn't think I had entrepreneurial skills. I've been a K through 12 teacher for 20 years. But they said that that's what they were looking for me going and kind of opening up a new thing in a country. So that was interesting to me that it was that specific. They're like, did you know that was a question asking about your entrepreneurial skills? I'm like, no, I had no idea. So I think they do a really good job of trying to match you with the region. I chose Southeast Asia as the region I was interested in, and I got matched there, and it was perfect.
Thanks, Eva. That's a really good point. And I think similar to entrepreneurial skills, kind of like what a lot of the projects are asking for is someone that's a self-starter, because yes, you have your primary project. Sometimes it goes off without a hitch. Other times it might take a little while to get started. So anyone that's a self-starter and can kind of go into the community, see a need, and start a project is really cool. And I think a lot of teachers have those skills. They might just not think of themselves in that way. So that was a really good point, Eva. Thanks for sharing that. Any other questions? I was accepted into the program in 2020. Could you talk about how project matching for 2021 is going to be affected? Yes. We all wish we had a crystal ball at the moment. The program is still on pause. Sometimes we talk about restarting in a specific country if things are looking safe. However, that hasn't happened yet. As soon as things start to look safe, unfortunately, things have seemed to go back downhill. So right now we are not restarting. We're desperately hoping that by the fall next year, we will be able to restart. But basically, we're not going to be matching people until we have that official word. But we're not waiting necessarily until every country can restart. As soon as a country seems to be ready and they have a lot of things in place, we would open up. So we might not open up at full capacity for the fall, but we're hoping that we will be able to open somewhere. Joyce asks, is the fellowship renewable? Some fellowships are renewable after about halfway through the first year. If the project is renewed, then if everybody, meaning the embassy, the relo, and the fellow are happy, there is sometimes an opportunity to renew. So many fellows do 1 year and many fellows stay for a second year.
Any last thoughts, questions? Well, there's still time if anything comes up. We invite you to swing by for more information. Our website, as we mentioned earlier, and please follow us on social media. We'd love to hear from you on there. We have daily updates of our fellows and specialists out in the field. And we thank you so much for joining us today. We hope to hear from you very soon.
Thanks, everyone.